Hello, fellow Trailblazers. Rachel Shumway here. Here in the part 2 video of how I passed my Salesforce admin exam on the first try. In the last video, we talked about the 3 things that you have to manage in order to make your studying effective. I provided some tools to make it ADHD friendly, which is really human friendly. And in this video, I will walk you through how a study session actually looked for me. And in the next video, I will share with you the exact long-term study plan that I used to help me stay on track. So in terms of what an actual study session looked like for me, there were really 3 stages that I identified in the learning process for me: learning, application, and testing. So I'm going to go through an overview of what each of these stages looked like and how I used all 3 of them to solidify my learning and increase retention so that I wasn't just sitting down and studying and then forgetting, but actually like remembering the stuff, because that's important because I don't want to waste time. All right, so in the learning stage, think of this, right, as like when you go into a chemistry class, you hear a teacher giving a lecture talking about molecules and structures, and you're kind of like, okay, I kind of like can understand what you're talking about, but if you asked me a question on it, I would have absolutely no idea. You can understand, but not necessarily be able to reproduce the knowledge. That's the learning stage. You might not know what questions to ask. You might not know what's going on, or you might be saying things like, oh, cool. So yeah, I know that an object is like, a tab in a spreadsheet, and the record is the row and the field is the column, but I have absolutely no idea what that looks like in a Salesforce org. What does that mean? What's the big picture? Okay, good job. You're in the learning stages. Your brain is active and engaged. Use those questions and thank your brain for going to work. When you find yourself asking questions, it means that you are learning. You are like breaking things down, and think of your brain in this learning stage really as building a train track. You are putting down the railroad ties, right? They're not solid. You don't actually want to put a train on there because they haven't been welded or nailed in, which is the application stage, but they are there. You have laid down the railroad ties from A to B. So for me, in the learning stage, reading documentation was not helpful at all. I would go in there and it would have all these fancy words like user setup and, backend and workflow rules and process automation and settings and, user setup. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. But I liked watching videos and hearing the concepts explained. I liked to, watch it be built in Trailhead, but not do it yet, right? So for example, Dave Massey, which his videos are fantastic. If you haven't got his course, you need to do that. He has a really good structure in his videos. In particular, one that I remember was a campaign video. He talked about what campaigns are, some of the permissions that you needed to have enabled in order to, make campaign hierarchies active and things like that. So he went through what a campaign is, and then he gave a real life scenario of how they were used in his business. I got to go in and watch him build something in an actual org in the setup, and then watch him create it, and then look at how the changes he made affected how the campaign page looked in the front end. Okay. In the learning stage, I also really liked creating simple flashcards in mnemonic devices. So for example, when I was learning, this thing that you need to know in the first objective is know what's under company settings. I thought, okay, well, the FBI is a very important company. Company settings, FBI, fiscal year, business information, and company information all fall under the company settings page, FBI, because the FBI is a very important company. And I never forgot that from that point, that what is under the company settings was F, B, and I. And then I created another one for the company information and the business information, but you get the point, right? Make it fun, you make it relevant, you make it tangible. Another thing that I would do in this learning stage was creating little flashcards, easy, simple, digestible. And I would go through 5 at a time. I would go through 5 at a time until I got the right answers and committed those to memory. And then I would go and I would do 5 more until I got all of those correct. And then I would put them together until I got all of those 10 correct. That was really, really helpful. Then I would put the flashcards down. I would take a little nap because sleep increases retention, just a 10 or 20-minute nap, nothing crazy. So those were the things that I did in the learning stage. I like the variety and the novelty. ADHD brains love different kinds of stimulation. So learning from different angles, visual, audio. If you like to draw, you can, draw out graphics and charts. That also can really help to transition from the learning stage into the application stage. And the application stage is where Trailhead really started to come in handy for me. This is where, you've laid the railroad ties, the train tracks are in place, and you get out your welder and your nails or whatever. I have no idea how to actually build a railroad, but you start to really solidify it. You understand the concepts, and now you have to recreate it. You might still have to refer back to documentation or learning notes that you created as you go along, but at the end of the application stage, you'll be able to say, hey, that's cool, I built that. Okay, so go into Trailhead, do the modules, go through that trail mix, and then go back at the end of the application session and do a little write-up. Do a little 10-minute summary of, okay, what did I learn today? This is the part where it's like you're going to the gym and you're lifting the weights. In order to break down the muscle fibers, you have to actually pick something up. In order to apply the knowledge that you gained in the learning stage, you have to pick it up. Your brain needs to be told to regurgitate information. So do a 10-minute summary, teach the concept to a person, to your dog, to the wall. It doesn't matter, but just flex the muscle, right? So when I first started studying, I had a hard time with the application stage. I felt like, okay, well, whatever, I just spent 2 hours on Trailhead. I built a validation formula. I remember creating the Boolean logic, but I still have no idea what I did. That's okay. Just get yourself into the habit of creating a little report at the end of the day, right? So this might look like in a real life setting, at the end of the day, like you ask your partner or your roommate, hey, what did you do today? And they'll give you a report of, I worked on this project at work or whatever. It's like, okay, cool. Well, can I just teach you what I learned today? Don't expect them to understand, because if they're not, learning Salesforce, my partner certainly never understood, but I taught him anyways. And that was that. Okay. So we got the learning stage, we got the application stage, you're building. And then the third stage is testing. This is where I used focus on force and Salesforce bend tests. I went into taking the tests really expecting that I was going to get most of the questions wrong. It's totally fine, because the more I forced myself to try and get it right, especially if I was just learning it for the first time or testing it for the first time, I was going to spend a lot of wasted time thinking about what the right answer was when I didn't know. So there's 2 ways to take the tests. The first way is as a learning tool. Okay. So this is where you go in and you can select review after each question. So you read the question and you check for, what is the question actually asking? Where is the bullshit, the fluff, the thing that you don't need, that you can cross off, that isn't relevant to actually answering the question? And then what's the caveat, right? Dave Massey talks about this in his video course as well. So what is the question asking? What do I not need in order to answer the question? And where is the, what's that thing? Boomerang. Where is the caveat? Answer the question and then look at why the question was wrong. You want to be able to understand why. So for an example, like Ursa Major has a sales manager and they keep finding that the sales manager is putting the same people in the opportunity teams over and over and over again. What is true about how this admin could save time? Oops, okay, I got that question wrong. I selected that the Salesforce admin shouldn't add it to the mobile app, but that was wrong. Okay, why is it wrong? Let's see, let's check the description. Both Focus on Force and Salesforce Ben tells you exactly why you got the question wrong. Focus on Force does it a little bit more in depth than Salesforce Ben, but in any case, okay, why did I get this question wrong? Oh, well, the answer says that it's because you can, in fact, add it to the page layout. Okay, great. So part two, why is it wrong? What does it look like in an org? Okay, part two is I actually went into my Salesforce test org. I navigated there. I see, this is how I enabled the default teams, the opportunity teams. This is how I add it into the page layout. This is how I enable it on the mobile app. See what I'm doing? I'm not just memorizing the answers in the test, but I'm going deeper and deeper and deeper for every single question. That's one way of using review tests. And another one is to select the second option, which is to review all of the answers at the end of the test. So you go through, you take the full exam, and then you see your score. As a learning tool, I recommend doing method 1 of checking after each answer for the first time you go through the material, and then just do the testing afterwards. Alrighty, so that is how I used it. Learning, application, and testing. On any given day, I would focus on being in one of those 3 stages, not necessarily learn one thing, apply it, test it right away, because that would just get me going all over the place, super easy to get distracted. But it's just like, okay, today's the learning day. What am I learning? What's my objective, right? That's super important as well. If you watched the last video, don't sit down to a study session without an objective. Okay, great. Today I'm learning about reports and dashboards. I am going to watch Dave Massey's video, or I'm going to watch a Trailhead live video. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to create my flashcards. I'm going to commit these things by creating a mnemonic device. I'm going to commit that to memory. And then tomorrow I'm going to go into the Trailhead and I'm going to build something in an actual org. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do the Trailhead module about building reports and dashboards. I'm going to know that I'm probably not going to do the super badge on reports and dashboards by the end of this week, but that's okay. I'm just focusing on learning and applying and testing. Okay, so that's a wrap. Let's tie this all together. In the final video, in the next video, I'm going to lay out what my overall study structure was, how I organized my exam guide so that I knew, like, week by week by week, these are the things that I need to do. This is how I know I'm going to be progressing through the Trailhead. You know, these are the things that I'm going to be committing to memory. This is how I'm going to stay on track. The Trailhead, the videos, the templates, the documentation, and then also providing some tools for you of how you can tweak that if my study structure doesn't work for your brain, because guess what? Your brain's going to be different, but it's okay. I got you covered. I will tell you how you can tweak it and hopefully provide some useful information on how you can keep going on your Trailhead journey. All right. Happy trailblazing, friends.